of this month. So back to the conversation with my panelists here in studio. We've seen the protest today by Kura Yangu Sauti Yangu, a number of civil societies just coming together with their own demands, not different from what we are seeing from NASA. 33 days to go, Joy. Are you confident that really, if at all there will be any, there will be free, fair and credible elections conducted by the IEBC with everything that's happening?
We have no one other than the IEBC to conduct the election, unfortunately. And so one thing that I find an exercise in futility is all the various demands, because if we go ahead and do what is being demanded, then we will not have an IEBC. We don't have an IEBC, we don't have an election on the 17th of October. We don't have an election of 17th of October, we're in uncharted territory. So it's even more uncharted than where we are now. I mean, 2017, we have done nothing but politics from January till now. It's gotten to a place where it's not fever pitch. The fever has broken. Now we are just exhausted. Now I'm talking as a Kenyan. And so time...
As a human being.
We've gotten to a place where we just need to get to the 17th. Let's do this election. Let's get it over and done with. Are the concerns legitimate? Absolutely. There has to be. In fact, it's one of those things where once we are done with the elections and there's no more timelines and anything to bother with, everything needs to be laid on the table and scrutinized, because something went wrong and we need to find out exactly what it is. But is now the time to do it? Now that's my point of departure. But what Kura Yangu Sauti Yangu is saying, and the concerns that are being raised by the NASA coalition, in my opinion, are very legitimate concerns that need to be addressed. But right now is not the time. We just don't have the luxury of time.
But the question that has been there is that with the Supreme Court overturning that ruling, of course, poked holes on the credibility of the IEBC. And some of the arguments that NASA has been having is that if you don't clean up your house, really, how do you expect us to trust you with another election?
That's the pot calling the kettle black. Remember the primaries, that even more shambolic than the elections were. The elections were conducted in a much fairer fashion. And added to that, now Parliament is back in session. Parliament can oversee the process, can actually, they're the ones who are mandated to actually call the officials of the IEBC and sit them down in parliamentary committees and question them. So we actually have got extra checks and balances. And then coming with the decision from the court, we will know what areas we need to look for specifically. So even if there have been failures by this IEBC, the solution is not this. But in fact, in my opinion, that's why we're in this situation we are now, because of what we did with the Isaka-san Commission. They are the ones who are supposed to have been managing this process. They had the experience to do it. But now we have a rookie commission. At their very first hurdle, they've fallen. And now the solution cannot just be let's throw it all away and let's start afresh within 30 days and expect a different result.
Duncan, do we solve this? Do we clean up the house before we get to the presidential election or after? Joy seems to think that we do it after we are done with a fresh presidential election. But do you think the concerns that are being raised are legitimate?
Joy says that Kenyans are tired. We just want elections to get over and done with the elections and move on. I think that is a fallacy. Kenyans are not tired, and they'll not be tired if it comes to getting a free, fair, and verifiable elections. And that is what the principle behind even the ruling itself. When you want something good, even religiously, you can actually fast. You go through a tough time and you get what is good. You don't need to rush and just get it. If we rush to the elections without dealing with the issues that actually triggered us to go back to the elections, then do we do ourselves a good service or a disservice? It means that it is automatic that the Supreme Court will have an easier time and a faster time to actually return us back to where we were. And I can tell you, if you are saying we'll be tired and we need up to 17th, we'll actually be tired, it means that we will be actually more tired because now we'll have another 60 days to prepare for another elections. So we already know, and I'm glad that it is common parlance, that we have issues that afflicted this particular commission. Blaming the removal of the former commissioners will actually also not be in good perspective. Because remember, the issues that abound now are actually mainly on the secretariat. The secretariat was not changed. It was not touched. And that is why I believe that if we had the commission as was, and the secretariat would even have had a more shambolic election. Therefore, what should have happened? It means that at this particular point, let's focus on what happened, as we await the Supreme Court decision and directions. And if it is this secretariat, we cannot afford to go to another election without this particular secretariat, because we don't even know if tomorrow they'll say, unless they tell us they are saved and they have confessed their sins, and we are going, and they become Paul after becoming Saul. But at this particular point, the concerns raised are legitimate, and if they're legitimate and they're not looked after, then there's the issue of perception that even that election was actually conducted in a credible, fair manner. But if the referee already has that tag, it is actually incumbent upon this particular person to resign. And remember, the Supreme Court said, yes, it is the IEBC to conduct these elections, but it didn't say it is Chebukati and Chiloba and whoever sits in the secretariat as is. IEBC is an institution. It is not an individual with perpetual succession. Therefore, some of these individuals can actually leave. And remember, the chairman, in his own wisdom, already said, I am the returning officer of this election. He gave out a list of individuals that he can use who are separate from the individuals who actually officiated that particular election. That means that we can have an election with a different team. But if we decide to do the same thing, then let us not be the first ones to complain when the Supreme Court again tells us go back and do it in accordance with the Constitution.
So for you, heads must roll.
Heads must roll.
Unfortunately, we have to end it at this. Thank you very much, Joy Brandam Divo and Dan Kanokach, both of them lawyers. It's a conversation we'll continue having here on KTN News Desk as we monitor everything as they happen. 33 days to go to the fresh presidential elections on the